This week on Ham Radio Q&A, your questions answered, and boy did we have the questions, so please stick around for more. Hi, I'm Michael, KB9VBR, your host for Ham Radio Q&A. I'm on a mission to inspire and educate the amateur radio community, so if this is your first time watching, please consider hitting that subscribe button. Well, last month on our channel update, we just celebrated our 5,000th subscriber, and in the months since then, we picked up an additional 2,500 more. So thank you very much for that explosive growth. I really appreciate it, and welcome to all of our new viewers. Thanks for finding us, checking out the channel, and sticking around for more videos. So once a month I always do a Q&A session where we kind of dig through all of the questions and comments from previous videos and try to follow up on things. So what we'll do is we'll just take a moment, go pull through the best ones, and create some discussion. So let's get started. Well, so my video is the Baofeng UV-5R Radio Illegal. It was a lightning rod for discussion. There was a lot of great comments, and we're going to dig into some of the better comments that I received on this video. And it really just boiled down to two things. So first off, the Baofeng radios, while they may be Part 90 certified, they're not type accepted for GMRS or the MERS radio services. Hans Oak corrected my statement that I made in the video that I said a Part 90 radio also can be work on GMRS. And Hans is correct, and I misspoke in that video, so I apologize for that. While GMRS frequencies are listed in the Part 90 specification and rules, a Part 90 certified radio is not automatically type accepted for Part 95, which is the GMRS band. And the same goes with the MERS radio service. A radio, in order to operate on MERS, needs to be also Part 95J type accepted or certified. But does this rule stop people from using these radios on those bands and radio services? No, not really. In fact, I'm not the radio police, so it's not up to me to determine if the level of risk that's associated with using a non-type accepted radio on a particular radio service. So you're going to have to decide if that risk associated with using these Chinese radios on those bands is worth it to you. Which brings me to the second half of my discussion, that these radios aren't suitable for the amateur radio service. Well, the FCC, with the exception of 10-meter amplifiers, does not certify or type accept any radios for the amateur radio service. And the reason is that as amateur radio operators, you can build your own radio devices. So the only requirement is that the radios have to be an emission below 60 decibels in the second and third harmonic frequencies. And unfortunately, a lot of the Chinese radios fail in that aspect. In the comments, as Me says, the biggest problem with Baofeng radios is that roughly half of those tested by the ARL over 5 years created spurious emissions at levels far exceeding those permitted by the FCC. And that's a great point. Spectral purity is a big issue with Baofeng radios. In order to make a transceiver so cheap, the quality control goes right out the window. These radios could be fully compliant in regards to the spectral purity and the second and third harmonic distortion, but then they wouldn't cost $30. To prove my point on poor quality control, like as me said, the ARRL tested hundreds of radios over a course of several years at the Dayton Hamvention and found that the Chinese radios failed at an order of magnitude higher than other radios provided by other manufacturers. And I've got a link to that ARRL article and those test results in the video description below. So if you want to read more about those real-world spectral tests, please check it out. So as a bottom line, as a radio amateur operator, you alone assume the risks and liability of using this equipment on the amateur radio bands. If you wish to stay 100% in line with Part 97 rules, you're going to need to either test your radio equipment to make sure that they meet those spectral purity requirements, or you're just going to not use these radios at all. Since testing, is out of reach for many hams. I know as myself, I don't have any frequency spectrum analyzers or anything like that. So it's going to be up to you to assume that level of risk in using these radios or avoid them altogether. I'll dig more into the issue of FCC compliance and type accepting in a later video, so please stick around for that one. And finally, related to this issue, Ian Maddox states, cheaper radios are helping keep the amateur radio hobby alive and making it affordable for everyone. You know, that's an interesting point. A lot of people, and I mean a lot, made that same exact supposition in defense of Baofeng radios. And I'm not sure if that's totally the case. Amateur radio has been growing. In fact, there's more amateurs licensed now than there has been in any other period in time. And I think the truth will be known in a few years when we start to see license renewals come about. Is there going to be a lot of attrition and people not renewing their licenses? Or will the easy proliferance of cheap radios and equipment help keep people involved in the hobby for a longer period of time? We'll have to see on that one. Moving along. A couple of items from my Baofeng UV-5RX3 review video. First off, Scott Evans noticed that my radio had the words E-Tech City right there on there, E-Tech City and not Baofeng on the speaker cover, and wondered if there was any difference between those models. Also, he said that living in Australia, he mentioned that the 222 megahertz band isn't available to him. Well, this is the radio that Radio Oddity shipped to me. Maybe I got a pre-production model or it was something different off the line. I don't really know. But the box and the manual all said Baofeng on it, and the only thing that didn't was the radio. In fact, if you open up the back of the radio, it says Baofeng on the back serial number panel of the radio too. So I don't know why mine says E-Tech City. And as for a second point, the 1.2 megahertz band, 1.25 meter band is only available in ITU Region 2, which includes North and South America. So the rest of the world really doesn't have access to the 220 band. With this band only available in part of the world, I think that's a big reason why you don't see more amateur radio equipment for the 220 band available. Another comment, Max Prepper says, for a better antenna for a Baofeng, check out Signal Sticks at Signal Stuff. And I'd just like to say, well, thanks for the recommendation of the Signal Sticks. They have a dual band 2 meter 440 HT antenna and also a mono band 220 antenna available on their website. So I'm going to check those out, and maybe in a future video we'll have a review of some of these Signal Sticks antennas. Finally, a Dial M4 microcontroller says, nice review. You mentioned propagation advantages of the 222 megahertz band. Well, I'm not really familiar with that. Could you give me a quick example of distance to a repeater, or that you could hit with watts, or compare it with the 2 meter repeater in your area? Or are there some other direct comparison? Well, he brings up some good points. And I did mention in my review that the 220 megahertz band does have some unique propagation characteristics. So 1.25 meter band sits between the 2 meter and the 70 centimeter bands and shares many of the properties of both of them. The 1.25 meter band has a working range quite similar to what you're going to find with the 2 meter band. Maybe a little bit more penetration into buildings and densely forested areas like the 70 centimeter band has. That's one of the advantages of 220. But like 70 centimeter, the 220 is quite sensitive to tropospheric ducting. But while sporadic E, it can be quite rare on the 70 centimeter band. It's also a little bit more rare on the 220 band, although by its close distance from the 2 meter band, you do see a little bit of sporadic E happening and meteor scatter happening on the 220 band. I think the biggest advantage of the 220 band is its relative immunity to adjacent interference. There's not much, if any, commercial activity around the amateur 1.25 meter band. So intermod really isn't much of an issue on 220 as it is on, say, 2 meters or the 70 centimeter band. Finishing up, I just want to announce a couple of things that are going to be happening in the month of September here. First off, the Wisconsin Parks on the Air is the third Saturday in September. That's Saturday, September 15th, 2018. Hams will hit the road and activate many different state parks and recreation areas within the state of Wisconsin. This should be a really fun event, and hopefully it'll become an annual tradition, much like the Wisconsin QSO Party has. I did a video on the event a couple weeks ago, so if you want to know more about Wisconsin Parks on the Air, I recommend you just check up that link right up there and see more for yourself. Next up is on Saturday, September 22nd, is the Chicago FM Club's annual Radio Fest over at the Boone County Fairgrounds in Belvedere, Illinois. This is the largest ham fest that you're going to find in northern Illinois. So if you're in the area, I recommend heading on over, checking it out. I'm going to have a booth in building number 1. Also, we're going to do a little bit of camping there in the fairgrounds. So should be a really good weekend. I hope to see you there at the Chicago FM Club's Radio Expo. More information on that, like I said, will be on the video description below. So, for more amateur radio articles, please check out my blog at www.jpole-antenna.com, loaded with information there. If you enjoyed this video, as always, give me that big thumbs up. I really appreciate that. Got some suggested videos over here that you may find interesting. And also, don't forget to subscribe. Subscribing is your way to be notified when new videos are produced and released. So, with that being said, I'm Michael, KB9VBR. Thanks for watching. Have a great day, and 73.